welcome to System Prompt. Peter, do you know it's episode number 7?
Absolutely not, and I can't believe it.
Episode number 7. Welcome to System Prompt. Today we're going to be taking a little different twist, and we're going to be covering a lot of the news that's been happening. We follow it every single day, but we want to talk about it because we talk about it anyways. Now we're just putting a camera on us and kind of giving you, the audience, our thoughts on what's happening. And we have a pretty good lineup for you today. But before that, I want to introduce myself. My name is Val,
And I'm Peter.
and you're back with us on System Prompt. You made it for 7 episodes, Peter. Can you believe that? 7.
Not at all. Not at all. But, every week is a new episode, and consistency is the game.
It's the game, man. So let's kick this thing off because we got a lot of really great topics to cover because there's been so much news. And the sad part is we have to cut out a lot of the topics that we want to talk about to kind of make this thing something that won't be a 24-hour episode. Maybe one day it will be, but today it's not. And let's kick this thing off because the hottest company in the game right now is Claude, Anthropic. They dropped the model 4.7. But in addition to dropping the model, some of the quality of their previous models have dropped. What are your thoughts about this, Peter?
Well, forget about model dropping is a good choice of words because they've had so many service disruptions. People haven't even been able to use their model. So, dropped model in a double, whatever. No, but look, you're absolutely correct, right? And over the course of the last, April 29th, the last 2 months, Anthropic's been going through some things that I'm not really sure exactly what's going on. Right on March 4th, they decided to change the default reasoning from high to medium, which caused a stir for everybody who just used it on default, right? Because it instantly was it degraded what people were using it for. People were caught off guard, and then they didn't really understand how to change it or what was going on with that. On March 26th, the caching bug caused the model to wipe its reasoning history every turn instead of just once after idle sessions, right? Making it appear forgetful and repetitive. That ran for 15 days before that was fixed. And then you had on April 16th, the verbosity cap was added, limiting responses to 25 words between tool calls and 100 words for final answers, causing a 3% drop in code degradation, before being reverted 4 days later. And I mean, look, and all this happened to coincide with OpenAI dropping, Codex Model 5.5, which people are saying is absolutely fantastic. I have no idea what Anthropic is doing, but only one of those was an actual bug. The rest of those were actual choices that they made. And are they? This is not the best way to run a customer experience campaign. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and on the inside, you're using the models, and I'm somebody who I build all the time. AI is an integral part of how I work day to day, and I noticed it. But the first couple times it's happening, I'm like, is this me? Am I doing something? Am I off? And it's not until I start talking to my teammates and I'm saying, hey, did you notice anything weird? And they're like, yeah, me too. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And then obviously we got to go to X, we got to go to the social media platforms, and that other people are talking about it. And the question I have is like, why did it take them so long to realize that we weren't just complaining? We were saying, hey, there's something up. We love your model. We want to use it. Here's our money, but something's up.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about on previous episodes also is how important the harness is for the model specifically, right? And in these specific situations, the degraded quality, you have the reasoning set to medium as opposed to high, which is a harness thing, not a specific model thing. And then you also have the cache bug, which is also a harness thing, right? And then you also, right? And then you also have the verbosity cap, which is also a harness thing. So this isn't even like the model itself. It's just a harness in which Anthropic has puts these models in. And, part of me is like, does Anthropic not like the the shine? Do they not want to be the centerpiece? Are they intentionally pushing people into different model buckets because they can't actually handle the compute needed to be the number one? Because that's what it feels like, right? And then when they remove the $20 option for Claude Code. Now, let me preface this with the fact that I don't think that a $20 plan is going to get the most out of Claude Code, or even like a medium amount out of Claude Code. Because what are you doing? Claude Code is a context chugger, but that's what it does, right? It spawns sub agents. It does a bunch of things that it's going to eat up your context. It's going to eat up your tokens, and it's going to eat up a lot of your usage on a $20 model. But it also meant that there's no low barrier to enter. There's no low barrier to be able to actually test out Claude Code. So what were they hoping on? What were they counting on? That all the people that were currently in the $20 model, that $20 usage a month, that use Claude Code at least a little bit, would now spend the extra $80 a month to use it? Is this the old adage where a drug dealer gives you the first one's free?
Yeah, get you hooked.
Yeah.
You know, but the weird thing is, it's like, we're still in this era where we're trying to build trust with these systems, and they are supposed that's their calling card is, hey, trust us. So what happens? Well, Mythos drops from that Claude Code leak. They're saying that Mythos can hack into any system, and then we see a degradation in the models. We don't know why at first, but we see that, and they're allowing the conspiracy theorists to go and poke holes into the trust that they spent a lot of time building. And what's happening is they're saying, we're saying, the paying consumers are saying, hey, are they doing this because they're afraid that AI may go run wild? AGI, this, that, and the third one. Really, the model was fine. There was just a couple things that happened internally, and they didn't do a great job at reestablishing that trust. When really what's happening is, I think the subsidies are over, bro. I think, we spent 2025 falling in love with these models, to use your example. They gave us a taste, got us hooked. But the truth is, the $20 that we were using last year to go and build these great apps can't be built with $20 for $20. The APIs that we're using to integrate all these agents and do all these amazing things, it's not $20. They were losing money, and some of these moves that they made sound like moves that they would make to save money. And not only, this is not our opinion. This is what the C-suites are saying at Anthropic. Cool, no problem. I think we could get that. But why allow that trust to start to get degraded between the end users, especially the ones who love it, when really it's, hey man, we can't keep up with this bill. Like, and the game may be over, not just for Claude, but for all of these companies. The VC money's running out, brother.
I mean, these things are going to be commoditized like anything else, but absolutely, right? You got users that are apparently doing 1,000 to 5,000 a month worth of inference on a $200 plan, right? The company can't absorb that completely. But there's also, on the flip side, right? You have these models of the same quality that are cheaper, right? So yes, 4.7 today is what it costs. 4.6 still up there in cost. But what about 4.5? 4.5 is a little bit cheaper. I mean, think about it when GPT-3 first came out a few years ago. That's cheap. You're paying cents for that. GPT-4, you're also paying cents for that in API costs. GPT-5, especially the early 5 models, you're paying cents for those. But in reality, look, and this is for everybody. Pay attention to this. Lazy pipelines are dead. So if you think that you're going to be able to set a task on the best model available and just let it complete a task from start to finish, you're going to have to start paying for that.
You know what? As you talk, all I feel is deja vu from a previous episode when we were talking about, is AI taking jobs, and so on and so forth. It's on record for us saying, well, you're switching, what we're really talking about is replacing a person with API costs. But even then, we were talking about what we thought the API costs are. Now we're starting to understand that those were not the real API costs. What's coming out now is the real API costs. And it's higher than what we thought. And it was high then. And it's higher than what we thought to actually run tasks. So if you're trying to run a task and it's a lazy pipeline, it doesn't really do what you want. You didn't think about it. It doesn't solve a real problem. Then you have to start to question whether this makes sense to pay all this money. Especially some of these tasks don't even require the use of these premier models, but yet the systems are defaulting to them to go in and change a color from red to blue on a slide. Doesn't make sense. What does that look like?
I mean, it's what we talked about before, and if if you follow me on LinkedIn, it's what I talk about all the time. Talk about orchestration, talk about routing, you talk about making sure that the right task to the right model, right? And people are like, oh, well, that doesn't apply. I don't. All right, well, if you're using Anthropic, so we'll stay on topic. There's Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. Now, for 75% of your tasks, Haiku is probably good enough. But you're not even trying that because you like Opus, and you think that Opus is the best model for the task that you're doing, that you're just going to keep using Opus, and that's not the right way to go, because you're going to end up getting priced out of that model unless you're comfortable. Look, if you're comfortable spending top dollar on the best model, and you don't really care about engineering, then do your thing. That's what it is. But the fact of the matter is, there still needs to be some engineering involved in this, because you actually have to take this through the motions. I mean, like we talked about, I think the future is hybrid. I think there's going to be some models locally. I think you're going to be using top models in the cloud for some specific tasks, task decomposition, making sure everything is correct on that. But that's what I think the future is. But like I said, engineering is not dead. You still need somebody in the game that understands how to do all this and put all these pipelines together in order to get you the best possible output, right? And the best possible output with the most reasonable amount of price.
Well, I'll put the disclaimer out there. If you are an enterprise company and you love to just spend money on the top models for no reason, we will be setting up a Patreon, System Prompt Patreon, where you can give a portion of that money to us because it seems like you just love burning it. So if you do, you might as well give it to us. We'll put it to good use. We promise. We promise. So no, you're totally right, man. And this is where AI native experience comes into play, because if you're not in the game getting your hands dirty, how do you make these decisions, especially at the C-suite level? I use Haiku for writing. I use Opus for building software. Why? Because Haiku is really good at writing text. Now, I would not use Opus for writing, because I think it's overkill. I think in software engineering space, they would say it's over engineering. You're using is not necessary for the task that you're trying to do. This is where we need to start thinking about, what is the task that I'm trying to solve? What is the problem that I have? What is that solution? And does that solution provide real value? And what is that value? And if the value is greater than the expenses, now it all makes sense. But if it's not, what are we doing? And Anthropic's not the only one out there. I mean, OpenAI just dropped 5.5, which is, I've used it a little bit. Pretty good. I'm pretty, I've been using OpenAI's models for a lot of like code review, debugging. Even 5.4 is really good, man. I'm telling you, like, it does a really good job. Just my cycles of having to go through fixing things is greatly reduced. It's a noticeable reduction. 5.5 is keeping up with that trend, maybe even a little better. However, that price, is it $150 per million token output better? I don't know, dude. Like, these are, what product am I building? If I'm building a product for a company where the cost that what I'm charging that company to build that product, the cost makes sense, then yeah, of course. But if this is just a pet project and I'm just doing something fun either for myself or for a friend, should I be using 5.5 to go and do code review? I don't know. I don't think so. And we still don't know if that's even the subsidized price or not. What happens when that subsidy runs out and we find out that the price is really double or triple that?
Well, I think that OpenAI, did some intelligent things that weren't actually the most popular, right? When including ads, right? They have a low cost with ads. It helps them subsidize the cost for the end user to actually continue using their product at a low cost, and it gives them additional areas of revenue to where they can offset, right? And a lot of people don't realize that. They're just like, I don't want ads in anything. But it's like, but you're getting ads, so you can pay $8 a month for this plan, and you can still utilize it at a low price, which I think is good in some respects. But obviously, people are going to chew me out for this one because that's what they do, right? They see ads, they automatically think negative. It's a negative experience. It's a negative connotation, but it's not altogether. And it's interesting to see, because even OpenAI had built a plugin for Claude Code, funny enough, so you can actually use codecs from within Claude Code, especially pertaining to you can use it for software reviews. So it feels like OpenAI was a step ahead of this one in this respect, and Anthropic is still kind of clawing their way back from a couple of bad months. I mean, that's it, to keep it short and sweet. Anthropic had a couple of bad months, and they saw service degradation, they saw service outages, and I saw people that were hardcore Anthropic, hardcore Claude Code, and they're making a switch over to OpenAI 5.5 codecs because codex has been more reliable, and Anthropic is dropping the ball in terms of the last 2 months. I mean, look, if you're so embedded, if you're a software company right now and you're using Claude Code to build to build for your clients, and it goes down and it has degradation, quality degradation, you're going to start looking for something else because you can't continue on the trend that you're going on now. So Anthropic, it's time to get it together. It's time to get it together.
Imagine those guys that are letting the Claude Code agents run for days at a time, not knowing that the model degraded, and then they're coming back and they spent $1,000 and the application doesn't work, or it's full of bugs. Like, what do? It's like we need a PR team to go in there and clean things up. Trust right now, Anthropic, is what you need to build with your end users. You only got a little tiny piece of the market of the true TAM. The true TAM, you're probably not going to touch that thing for a couple of years, because what you really need to do is convert people that would never use your product into using your product. That starts with trust, especially with all this news out there is working against them. AI is going to do this, AI is going to do that, and then you pull these moves. No, man, there's a path to profitability that you are running down. These things don't help. Does it keep the loyal users? Yeah, well, that's why they're loyal users. The loyal users aren't going anywhere. But you got them already. You already have their cash. What you need to do is go and break into these other markets. This isn't the way. And even on that note, with OpenAI, do you think that their move to AWS has anything to do with this kind of money play, or is this more of a system play? What are your thoughts on OpenAI kind of kicking their old buddy Azure to the curb and moving over to AWS?
Well, it's pretty clear. Well, it's not pretty clear, right? Because we don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But you have this situation where OpenAI and Microsoft had this exclusivity deal, right? Where you can only get private VPS, ChatGPT usage through Azure. That's not the case anymore. You could get it through Amazon Bedrock now. Amazon decided to give them a boatload of money, and now there's no longer any exclusivity. And you're seeing a bunch of these cloud hosting platforms that they're all able to do the same thing, which at the end of the day is good for the end user, because what's better than competition, right? Competition supposedly is supposed to help drive down costs. We'll see if that actually happens. but we'll see, right? I think it was more of a play in OpenAI needing money in general, and not being exclusive to Azure helps them, I guess. But what do we know for sure about OpenAI? We know that there's nobody that burns cash faster in in I think in history. I think they're gonna be one of the companies that burns cash faster than any other company in literal history. And we're talking about they're gonna beat out the likes of like Uber, Tesla. It's gonna
Maybe even combined when
be,
this is all said and done.
and they need cash, and that's what they need, right? They need cash. They need to continue to sub. I mean, look, guys. AI is going to be a commodity because what ends up happening, right? What actually ends up happening if people lose access to the top models? What happens? It becomes a situation where the US based businesses lose access to the top models, and it makes us less competitive to other people. And what does that turn into, right? That turns into situations where you're starting to have to push into something like sovereign AI. Well, what happens in that case? What do we just see that just happened? Despite Manus moving to Singapore to trying to circumvent the Chinese government, China still said, nope, Manus is not getting bought by Meta. That is not happening anymore. And it's interesting, right? Because
For those who don't know Manus, they were the Open Claw before Open Claw. They to their credit, that first agent, it's almost a little over a year ago, was impressive then. It was unlike anything I've seen in the space for what they were able to do. They were really the first glue agents that said, "Hey, let's pull something from here. Let's operate as what a true agent should do. Let's go and actually do stuff. You give us a prompt and we're not going to just create text. We're going to jump into these systems and we're going to actually do stuff for you." And they did it well. They did it really well. And they grew fast. You know, when I think of Manus, I feel like they were around for years, but it's been over a year and they made a boatload of money along the way. However, China said, nah. What are your thoughts on this, Peter?
I mean, it's continuing to see which is interesting because a lot of people are already on the fence of using a Chinese product to begin with, right? And this is how I want to get this started because I just want to make sure that my opinion comes across. Because of course I have to add my 2 cents into this.
Of
Of
course. Of
course, of
course.
course. I wouldn't be anything if not opinionated. Anyway, use the Chinese models, and people are like, "Why do you say that?" And I'm just like, it forces competition because if you're only pigeonholing yourself into using the U.S. models, then you know what? Then there's no reason for them to make it the best. The Chinese models are what's driving these companies to make better models. And okay, I said it. It's out loud. I did the thing. All right. The message, the clear message: AI talent and IP are national security assets. That's the message of what China just pushed out to the world. Right? Is that Manus is our asset. We're not giving it to the U.S. We don't want to give it to the U.S. capitalism. We don't want to give it to Meta. We want to hold on to that. Right? Singapore washing wasn't going to work.
Yeah, it's crazy. Big blow to Meta, by the way, because I thought that was a great move for them. They've made a lot of moves in the past. That one made a lot of sense, mainly because of the direction they were trying to go in. I thought it was a good play, man. I thought it made the most sense on every single level. They're like, hey, these agents do stuff. We know a ton of businesses that could benefit from these agents, and we're talking long before we knew what Open Claw was, and Nemo Claw, and this claw, and that claw. They were saying, hey, if we can refine these agents to go and do processes for small businesses, there is a large part of the market that is already on our platforms like Facebook, and so on and so forth. We can just introduce these services to them and provide real business value, which I'm pretty sure they would have subsidized in the beginning. and while giving these businesses a chance to really understand how to use these agents properly to provide that value. And then once they up the price, it would have made sense because, hey, okay, yeah, I'm okay with spending $1,000 a month on this, a budget that I would have never had before to even explore an AI. But I'm okay with spending that $1,000 a month because you've given me a time to figure out how to use that agent to save me 5,000. So I would happily give you that 1,000. And now, now it's kind of in jeopardy. And can they go and build another agent? Of course they can. But branding means a lot. Reach means a lot. The product is great. Where do they go from there?
They build it from scratch. Do they have much of a choice? They don't, right? And I mean, it's not like Meta is any stranger to burning money, hence their name Meta. What happened to their whole VR world? They just turned it off. They spent billions of dollars on that.
I think it's like 88 billion, dude.
Yeah, and their whole virtual real estate angle is now sitting in some storage backup because nobody's actually using it. And it's done. So Meta's no stranger to burning money. The problem is that they're going to have to create their own harness for it. And again, that brings us back to the original point we made at the top. The original point we've made in several podcasts is that the work is in the actual orchestration. The work is in the actual pipeline. The work is in the actual harness that you're doing, and that's why they wanted to buy it and they didn't want to have to build it. Madness worked. It worked. Had great sandbox, had great server, had great headless and headed browsing. I was able to actually take a task from start to finish. It was really good, and they wanted it, and now they're gonna have to do it themselves. I mean, they've already pivoted away from Llama, right? They're doing closed source models now, and I mean, while the Llama models were great for the start of open source modeling, it's and I mean, the Llama models also, to a big part, are developing into or what NVIDIA is using to develop their Nematron models to a large part, especially how they started. But I imagine the Llama models aren't going to age well, right? And Meta's going to find themselves in this situation to where they're going to be behind all the other big dogs. Is that okay for them? Is that not okay for them? I mean, for Facebook, for the amount of users that Facebook has, having a model that's ingrained into that user base, I imagine would be highly popular. And they can't seem to grasp it. They can't seem to get a handle of how to actually monetize it and how to turn it into something great, right? I mean, even with X, right? You compare with X, people love Grok. People love how intertwined Grok is with X. But are you going to use Grok for anything else? No, they don't like it for anything else. I mean, aside from it being able to, create really weird pictures of people that ended up getting them into, never mind, because Elon will go after us.
but I like the play, because what you're talking about is how do we like the Manus didn't work for Meta, but this is not going to be the last time we're seeing these companies kind of joining forces, because that's the quickest way. They have quote unquote product market fit. They have revenue. They have a user base. Why go and disrupt that by trying to build my own thing and compete against them instead of teaming up? And to the point of X, I think the merger with Cursor makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense, and it's a big one. We don't know how it's going to play out, but I can see the play. If I were to look at it through the lens of what Manus was trying to do, what Meta was trying to do with Manus, you see this is a tongue twister here. What Meta was trying to do with Manus, I'm not a Cursor user. I'm on record saying I'm a Windsurf guy. But would I be completely upset if a company like X came into Windsurf and said, hey, you know what? For these models that you're trying to build on your own, come and use our hardware and let's really kick that thing up to the next level. You're gonna use our hardware. We're gonna go and try to not only crank out the best models, but if we do, we want to put it into the hands of users. Because if they go and they build these great, let's say, coding models, but nobody uses it, it's a waste of money. But if we could go and integrate it right into your pipeline, they have a chance, if they could create these great models, to go and eat the lunch of Anthropic and possibly OpenAI, especially if Anthropic keeps on fumbling this hot potato. They keep on fumbling this thing, and Grok comes out with a really great model, integrates it right into Cursor. This is the competition that I think the market needs to keep everybody honest.
Yeah, or on the flip side, and I'm not saying that X's deal is, or Elon's deal with this whole thing is a bad thing, right? Maybe they can't come up with a coding model. Maybe Cursor is the thing that came up with a great model. XAI is the thing that's going to have the supercomputer. They have the compute, and they can't seem to tackle. They can't solve a coding model, right? And that's been one of Elon's biggest things. He said it on multiple times. He wants to make sure that X is able to compete in terms of a coding model, because that's let's call a spade a spade. Coding and software development is one of AI's biggest use cases in general, right? And well, that being said, if you can't compete, you get out of the kitchen. And this play is great for them, right? I mean, it's $60 billion to buy
That's
this,
insane.
and or they pay $10 billion for pulling out. So no matter what, Cursor wins, right? Cursor wins. My issues really stem from hoping that Cursor still stays this platform that's available for people, right? Because I know Cursor has a very generous free tier. People can really get their feet wet really easy jumping into Cursor. And I hope that maintains through this. And I hope through, no matter what, Cursor's getting at least $10 billion in their pocket. And hopefully that helps finance a lot of that. And also maybe, it's not like, is Composer a model that they've trained, or is it a slew of different models, or is it just a pipeline under the hood? Again, it's every time we have this conversation about new capability and new things that are being released, we're going to talk about, is this a model, or is this a harness with a pipeline and orchestration under the hood? And we're going to keep going, because that's going to be one of the points that are going to be consistent across a lot of these conversation types. But that being said, I think it's a great move for X to get something that has good branding, like you say, is really important, like Cursor does. It has a user base already, so they don't need to start from scratch. They don't need to do it's not, from scratch marketing. Trust Grok's coding. It's, no, we bought Cursor. You already know this. You already know what this is.
Actually, something that just jumped into mind. I wonder if how much of that 60 billion are they paying for Cursor's data set? Because that's the other thing they don't have. They have a massive data set to train on, that's exclusive to Cursor, and now would be exclusive to XAI. Yeah, they could go and scrape these things across the internet, but Cursor has a proprietary data set that is massive. And I wonder how much of that 60 billion is to say, hey, let's get some of that data so we can go and close the gap with where we are with Grok, because there's only but so much data that they could scrape from the internet or their internal team. And is that data set worth 30 billion, 10 billion, 20 billion? I'm curious. In addition to all that,
I mean, that's a great point, because you can engineer your own model and your own harness and your own pipeline based on the data set that they have. So you have an understanding of where the models break, where the edge cases, what needs to be bolstered, what needs to be strengthened. What are the strong points? What is this actually good at? And you're absolutely correct. I mean, but that's what the 10 billion is for, right? No matter what, 10 billion for ongoing work together. That's what that means, right? They're paying $10 billion for it. That's what that's worth. What was really interesting that I saw that Microsoft had decided not to bid at all. So not only they're losing the exclusive deal with OpenAI, they didn't bid at all on XAI. They included Claude, Anthropic's models, into their arsenal as well. I'm curious. A lot of people are going, Microsoft is going to own the enterprise agentic market, and the other side of me is going, is this you're lucky that everybody puts their stuff in SharePoint and all the information is there, because otherwise, why, right? Why? One of the things I'm really curious about picking apart is Microsoft's, agent development kit, to see how actually useful it is. Because you look at things like when you look at to see how Google is scaling their AI initiative, and both of us agree on this with the components. Notebook LM might be one of the best things I've ever used AI
Oh,
tool wise, and not enough people know about it. I feel like it's just this quiet thing in the background, uh, and it's like it creates slide decks for you, so you can almost get rid of your Gamma account for it. It'll create content videos for you. You can include videos, documents, audio, whatever it is, to generate content around very specific topics, and it's freaking amazing. And I think more people need to use it. If you don't know about Notebook 11, you've never used it, go use it and just give it a try. I was studying things. I was making hour-long podcasts I just listened to on repeat. I'd make videos based on the content if you're a visual person. I'd make decks. I could make flashcards with question answer pairs in the back to help me study and learn new things. I mean, it's an amazing tool, but it's very specific.
you're tugging on my heartstrings here, man. You know my affinity with my love for Notebook LM. I use it every single. That's my primary tool for learning. Every single day, I use it, and they have a generous free tier. I don't know how long it's going to be free for, but you could create 3 unique topics every single day. Every single day. That means if there was something you wanted to learn, you could choose 21 topics a week and dive deep into that. And you know what? I'm gonna give the playbook here. This is the quick playbook. I'll do 30 seconds here. Gemini, deep research for a topic, any topic you want. Their deep research is great. They'll give you about 30 pages of stuff. Get your prompt right to make sure that the information is correct, but you have a generous amount of content. I take that, I pop it right into Notebook LM, and then I go and I create podcasts, flashcards, everything that Peter mentioned. And then you can recreate new flashcards, new videos from that same piece of content. And you can add to it, you can remove from it, you can add videos. Oftentimes, I'll layer a topic with, let's say if I want to refine my understanding of Python, I'll go straight to Stanford's YouTube channel, and I'll go take the course, and I'll pop it in there as well. Product, man, everything. This is the fact that there aren't more competitors at this point in time is strange to me. I don't know what their usage rate is, but if you are somebody looking to learn anything that we're talking about in any of these episodes, and you're not using Notebook LM, which is a free tool, you're missing out on probably one of the coolest products. And I'm curious to see what their roadmap is. And I pray that they don't fumble this. I hope this doesn't become a Sora 2 years from now where they're saying, oh, we're not making any money, let's toss this out. Because if they do, I will build this thing. Maybe not as good as them, but some version of it, because this is how you keep up with the pace of this industry that's moving so fast. It's almost impossible to stay on top of all these things. But when you can use AI to keep up with the speed of AI, it's like this. Now you're in the groove. All right, so that was more than 30 seconds. We're not getting paid from these guys, but it's a great product, man. You're totally right.
Absolutely. And look, we had a couple of more topics that we wanted to go over this in this specific episode, but we're running over, and as you just saw from tech tips from Val and Peter corner right at the end. No, look, we're having fun with it. Yeah, right. Tech tips. We're going to be starting to lean into some more technical things next week. I would love to go over some open source. We might have a guest soon. There's some cool things on the horizon, so stick around. But I think, look, the chances are that any human being can actually keep up with the AI news is neither here nor there. So we're going to do our best to try to have one of these, a certain cadence. Obviously, we can't do this every week. I mean, we'd have to do it every day to keep up with the news. I mean, any sane human being it's just absolutely insane. But I wanted to thank you guys for checking in episode 7, which is insane. We're going to start pushing into some more technical. If you're interested in things like open source models, K-transformers, shit, we could probably do an entire episode on Notebook LM and just show people how it's used and how and what it can actually do.
You know, Peter's doing it here. He's tugging at my heartstrings. He knows what he's doing.
Anyway, have a great one, guys. We'll see you next week.
Always. Thank you.